Welcome to the Detroit Lions Morning Rounds podcast. I'm Jimmy Liao, graduate of University of Michigan Medical School. Let's talk about ACLs for week 2 of the NFL. There was a big surge in the ACL tear rate. 7 ACL tears in week 2. The most prominent guys were Nick Bosa, Saquon Barkley. There was also an Achilles tear, Malik Hooker of the Colts. Total ACL tears to date are 19. So the big question is this a surge? Is this an anomaly? Is this concerning? Is this the NFL's fault? Is it COVID's fault? So let's look at the stats. Let's look at the total ACLs over the past 2-3 years. In 2019, there were 34 total ACL tears. 13 of them occurred prior to the regular season, so over a third. In 2018, 53 total ACL tears. 29 occurred prior to the regular season, so over 50%. In 2017, 51 ACL tears total, with 31 occurring prior to week 1, over 50% again. So the 2019 total ACL tear was somewhat of an anomaly, about 19 to 20 less than the previous couple years. But what you see is that there's a disproportionate percentage of ACL tears that occur prior to the regular season. It's only about 4 to 6 weeks of training camp, whereas there are 16, 17 weeks of the regular season. So for a third to over a half occurring in the preseason is a disproportionate amount. Now, there are many theories why this might be the case. My theory is that players get bigger, either with fat or muscle in the offseason. They can also get stronger, more powerful, quicker, faster. All these extra forces, the extra power, as well as the possible extra weight, increases stress on knee ligaments. Ligaments don't get stronger the way muscles get stronger. So you can build a lot of muscle strength and not have your ligament be any stronger. So at some point, there's going to be a tipping point where you're simply are putting too much force, too much strength on a knee ligament. And that ligament is bound to snap as soon as you put an excessive amount of force on it. So for a lot of players, that's just going to occur early in the season, the first time they put a significant amount of force on the knee, causing the ACL to tear. So in typical years, we see a surge of ACL tears during the preseason as soon as they start playing preseason games, inter-squad scrimmages, things like that. This year, no preseason games, no inter-squad scrimmages. The entire training camp was cut short significantly. So I had predicted that there would be a surge, a delayed surge, occurring in the first 2 to 3 weeks of the regular season. Well, week 1 was pretty quiet, but week 2 we did see that surge with, again, 7 total ACL tears. Is this the end of the surge? It could be. However, we should keep a close eye on week 3. I think if you can get through week 3, then you're pretty much clear for the rest of the year. By clear, I don't mean you're not going to see any ACL tears. You still will see ACL tears, but not at the frequency and rate as you see early in the season. So there's a question, is the NFL to blame for this due to lack of acclimation, lack of off-season? I don't think so. This is expected that there's going to be a surge of ACL tears early on in the season. With a total of 19 tears to date, that's not an anomalously high number at this point. Last year there were 34, year before 53, year before that 51. So we'll keep an eye on that total going forward. And by the way, these numbers are all obtained from the ACL Recovery Club Twitter. So go ahead and check that Twitter for the data. Now there's another question, is COVID to blame because of lack of OTAs, lack of acclimation? Again, I don't think COVID is to blame. This was all expected, that there was going to be a surge early in the season. Now the good news for Lions fans is no ACLs that I know of so far. There was one Achilles tear, Jayshon Cornell, 7th rounder, who wasn't going to play much likely for the team this year. So even though the Lions have had a lot of minor injuries over the past few weeks, a lot of hamstring strains, a lot of minor things that don't require the guy to even be placed on the 3-week IR, there have been no season-ender ACLs. But again, we'll keep an eye on this on week 3. If the Lions and NFL teams can get through week 3 safely, then they should expect a significantly decreased rate for the rest of the year. Thanks for listening. Subscribe, rate, review, comment, questions, disagreements. Twitter @Jimmy Liao MD. Thanks.